but did I think I was going to have a baby in a pandemic and be living in Sweden an hour away from the hospital and like supporting my husband? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't see it this way, and it's my dream. And like Joe's dream is to play hockey. So I'm like, we sacrifice so much as hockey wives.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think that anybody besides a hockey wife would actually understand like that. I think people back home are like, of course they sacrifice, but they're still living in these awesome countries, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, it's not home, and we're having babies and we're moving around and we're, you know, missing our family. And yeah, it's hard.
What gets us through this crazy hockey journey is our amazing community of women. Inspired by our online network, Breaking the Ice is a platform created to connect us even more as we share our stories, our passions, our tips, tricks, do's and don'ts for all things hockey, and so much more. For hockey expats, by hockey expats. So lace them up and tune in for a new episode every Wednesday. Good morning. I hope you guys are all enjoying your morning walk while listening to the pod. I'm happy you're back today. Today I have Jillian Cannata on the podcast, and Jillian and her husband, they play in Oskarshamn, Sweden. I feel like that's a kind of a tongue twister, and they will be going back there for the following year. They've also spent quite a bit of time playing in the US and finally decided to make the move a couple of years ago. This episode to me felt so comfortable. I felt like we were really just sitting down at like a coffee shop and just talking about life. In this episode, we talk about pregnancy, we talk about dogs, finding things for yourself, finding balance and communication within your relationship. And we honestly just talk about the struggles that come with this hockey life. Like, it's not always sunshine and rainbows, as you guys know, and I think it's important to discuss that sometimes. We actually recorded this episode on Election Day, so pretty much a month ago from when this is actually coming out. And I know around that time it's just kind of a heavy, I guess is the word to use, time for a lot of people. I feel like you'll find yourself really relating to this episode, and I can't wait for you to listen. Jill, thank you for coming on the podcast today. You guys, we tried recording this, I think it was like last week or the week before, and we just could not, like our audio, there was just some issue with our audio, and there was like construction going on outside of my apartment. And so I actually wound up calling Jill on FaceTime, and we talked for like 30 minutes. Yep. So I feel like we already know each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yay, I'm excited that you're here today.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Your podcast has been so great. I think it's just been such an awesome platform to connect all the hockey women, and especially with me being pregnant and you being pregnant, and like I follow other girls along their pregnancy journey, because our situations are pretty unique with this hockey lifestyle. So
yeah, you were just telling me like literally 2 seconds ago that you've connected with other girls about that are due like the same time as you that are in the hockey world, which is so cool. It makes me so happy.
Yeah, and that's all you're doing, which is so cool. It's like, it's kind of like a breath of fresh air, right? Because it's like I said, like I can call my friends and, you know, complain about, you know, this or that, being pregnant, but it's so different when you're abroad, and there's so many different concerns, I guess, that like really only the hockey girls understand.
Yeah. How old are you, by the way?
I'm 31.
Okay.
I'm an old lady. No, I'm just kidding.
No. Oh my gosh. Stop. No, but like I'm 28, and I feel like for me, I feel like I'm the first person out of my friend group outside of hockey that's like going through this. And so like,
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm the one that has to like figure this all out on my own. So it's so nice having this community, because I think I've just learned so much from the other women that have had babies, because do you feel that way at all?
Yeah. So I don't know if I think I mentioned this to you last time. Like I just like, I'm kind of a worrywart in some ways. And I feel like when I listen to stories that like through your podcast of pregnant women, and I hear like these crazy intense stories, or like women with 2 kids, or, 2 kids, 2 dogs, whatever, they're like coming over here. I'm like, Jill, you can do this. Like, women before you have done this. Like, I feel myself like feeling so empowered by their stories. I don't know if like you can relate to that, but I'm like, all right, like, women in Europe have babies. Like, we can go to Europe and have babies. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, how are you feeling? How is everything for you right now?
I'm feeling good. I'm in my 16th week. I feel like my first, like, it was weird. Like, my first trimester, I was like nauseous, but I think I was so excited that I was pregnant that I was just like on cloud nine, like, floating. And obviously, no one really knew, and you couldn't even really tell. But second trimester, it's good. It's some days I wake up and I'm like, am I sure there's still a baby in there? Because it's just like weird. It's like you don't feel as many symptoms, but I've been feeling more like anxious. I feel like, maybe, I don't know. It's also maybe
Mm-hmm.
just the weight of the world right now. I mean, we're recording this on election day, which is kind of wild for
I
the
know.
States. So I think the whole world's kind of feeling that. Also, like the pandemic. So I think like once I go down a rabbit hole, my brain just like goes deeper and deeper. And maybe in my second trimester, I feel a little bit more anxious. I don't know. Did you feel that way at all?
I feel like I've been anxious the whole time. And I think like I have to agree with you. I think a lot of it is just what's going on in the world. Like there's so much unknown and so
Yeah.
many circumstances. It's like you can't anticipate anything or expect anything, and it's
Yeah,
everything's
totally.
just thrown for a loop. So I think that plays a huge part in my anxiety.
Hmm.
But yeah, I definitely relate to that. And I think,
Yeah.
as you get further along, you do become more, I guess, less anxious about the baby, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
Yeah. No,
But
that makes sense.
still the external stressors are
Yeah.
definitely still there.
I said to my husband the other day, I was like, I miss just like going to a hockey game, and like the most stress being like whether you guys win or lose.
Yeah.
Like now it's like hopefully the whole team doesn't get coronavirus and like bring it home to me while I'm pregnant. Like, just it's just crazy this year. Like the
I
stresses have
know.
just been so like night and day, and like the things you used to think were problems are just totally not. And I think it's all about perspective. You just have to like stay positive and surround yourself by positive people, and read positive things, because the internet can, if you self-diagnose, you just go down that rabbit hole and you're like, oh, I definitely have that.
Yeah, I know. And I was thinking about this too. I'm like, when this podcast comes out, like I'm gonna have a baby, like which is
Oh, that's so
crazy.
exciting though. Oh, I'm
Like
sure you can't wait.
it's just time. I feel like time flies when you're over in Europe.
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel that way
Yeah.
too, but it's like, how the heck
It,
is it already November?
yeah, in some ways. And then some days I'm like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
this day's never ending. It's because like, you try to like fill your days with things, and like you're like doing a puzzle. Like, I don't think I've done a puzzle since I was like, young. Like, it's crazy. So but yeah, no, some days, I mean, when I look back on my, like, I remember you came out to Europe like 2 days before me, and I had been messaging you on Instagram, and I was like, how's it going? Like, are you doing okay? Like, and I followed your travels, and then we came. And so that seems like it was like forever ago when you look back on that. But
I know, because that was
yeah, like,
July.
but yeah, and even that like connection, like watching you come out, like it was like a breath of fresh air to be like, okay, she got into the country, we can get into the country. I mean, things that you just never worried about before all
I
of this
know.
madness been
And
going on.
people are still, I can't, it's mind blowing because I think like we expected this to be over so much earlier, and like just to see people posting in the expat page and like people
Yeah,
asking questions like, I'm coming over to Europe now. Like the fact that this is still going on and like this is
yeah,
still like people are struggling to get over here is just like, I feel
yeah.
so
And
bad.
I agree. And like I read some of the stories on the expat Facebook page, and my heart really goes out to like the players that are waiting on contracts, and the AHL starting late, and just so hard. And we feel very grateful that Joe's playing right now, but it's just, who knows, like, like, I mean, it's like you're like worried, like maybe the season will shut down, or you just don't know. It's so many unknowns, like you said. Like,
Hmm.
it's crazy. It's crazy.
I
And I
know.
honestly, I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. That's the even crazier thing. Like, I feel like we're going to be doing this into the summer.
Yeah, which makes me literally cringe. Like,
I
I'm like, I
know. I
cannot.
know. I know. And even like with this election, like not to at all, not to bring politics into this or talk about, but I just feel like so much is going to shift in America. Like once whatever happens, and that's so scary too. Like what the heck's going to happen?
This morning when I woke up, I'm like, okay, well, if I want to be on social media right now is the time to do it, because when everybody wakes up in the US, all I'm going to see is political posts. And
Yeah.
I don't know
And
about
it's
you.
draining, and you feel the weight of it. Like you feel the anxiety. Like granted, we're not there, but like you just like you don't know how to think. You don't know what's right, what's wrong. Like the country's so divided. Like it's just insane that that this is happening, and it's during a pandemic, and it's one of the most intense elections that I've ever gone through. I mean, I'm pretty sure for everybody, but yeah, who knows?
I know, it's kind of like the same deal with COVID. It's like you can only take so much, and like there's some days where I feel fine being on social media and like reading stuff about it and watching things like, you know, like videos and stuff, but then there's some days where I'm like, I literally cannot read, talk, like do anything regarding this anymore, because it's affecting my mood and like just like me like feeling happy and being able to just go through the
Oh,
motions of the
I
day.
agree.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's such a heavy time right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
You
how do we
have to really
navigate it?
like you have to really pick and choose what you want to read, and then you also have to pick and choose like what mood you're in, and like if you are in like a, you know, because some days I don't know, I feel like this more with my second trimester, and again I've said this like with my anxiety, I feel like a little more on edge, and I feel like when I'm in those moments, like I can't go online, like I just can't go on like my Instagram and like watch this stuff happen. And because I have friends that are, you know, one side and friends that are the other side, and like so much intensity that's happening that I have to be very particular with when I choose to read or like see any of it, because I feel like it drains me. I
Mm-hmm.
like feel like I got nothing, like I'm like I like feel like I like did like this like insane like walk, and I'm just like so tired when I read and watch it all. It's heavy. It's all
Yeah.
heavy.
That's good that you can recognize that though, because I think for me, it's like I wake up and what do we do the first thing we wake up? We get on our
Yeah, you
phones and we
grab
scroll
your
through
phone.
social
Yeah.
media, and it's like,
Yep.
I think I could do a better job at being more mindful of like, okay, how do I feel this morning? Like, do I feel like I can take the
Mm-hmm.
social media like
Yeah.
theatrics right now? Or should I maybe not get on my phone for a few hours and limit the screen time?
It's hard. It's hard too, I think, like in this lifestyle and being so disconnected from the States, and like you can't just like turn your TV on, put the news on and see what's happening. So like those are our outlets. So I
Mm-hmm.
think we gravitate more towards it, like especially just like with being away from family, right? Like maybe extended family, you're not like talking to your cousins every day, but you're seeing it on Facebook and you're seeing it on Instagram, and like that makes you feel like that link and connection. I mean, at least for me. So there's moments when like I feel like that is like I like reach for my phone because I feel that sense of comfort or home, like, you know, with your friends and keeping up
Yeah.
with everything. But then there's moments when I'm like, okay, Jill, like this is not, you're not going down the right path here. Like let's just put it down and like go do something more mindful, and, you know, take like a second to come back to reality.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Do you find yourself staying up super late? Because I think like with the time change, well, that's when I'm talking to my friends is like midnight.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yep.
okay, I should
Yeah.
not be staring at my phone for like an
Yep.
hour at midnight to like talk to my friends. But
Yeah.
like this is the only time I can like exchange a decent amount of conversation with them.
No, of course. You're from San Diego. Is that
Yeah, and
you're from San Diego?
my friends are kind of like scattered through like
Oh,
Mountain
okay.
Time,
Everywhere.
California. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
all over the place, but
Yeah.
primarily, yeah, California and Mountain
California.
Time.
Yeah. California is tough. So my family's in Boston, but then I lived in LA. I went to school in LA and all my friends are there. So yeah, like there's times when I call them at like 4 p.m. here, and they're like, I'm just waking up. I'm like, but I've been waiting all day to talk to you. You know, like you like sit like anxiously. You're like, I have something to tell you. Yeah. So no, I get that. I mean, I used to be the like biggest night owl, like where I'd stay up, but since I've been pregnant, like 8:30, 8:45 rolls around, I'm like, I have to go to sleep. Like I just don't have the energy, but maybe later on in my pregnancy, they say you just like stop sleeping. Like, yeah, everyone says that like your body like trains you because you don't sleep when you have it. So everyone's like, you just like you're just wide awake. But
Oh
I
my
don't know, have you
gosh.
experienced that or no?
I posted like a thing on my personal Instagram. I was like, I have had the worst insomnia. There was like 3 or 4 nights where I was literally sleeping like absolute shit. Like I could not
Oh,
fall asleep. It
no,
was three
honestly,
in the
nothing
morning.
worse. Nothing
No.
worse. And I think being pregnant, you wake up feeling hungover. Like I'm like,
Yes.
I had to. I like when you don't sleep, and I wake up and I'm like, look at my husband. I'm like, I didn't drink anything last night, right? Like you just wake up feeling terrible.
Yeah. So I was sleeping so bad. The thing is I was so tired. It's like that's the worst when you're like exhausted but you can't fall asleep. And then like my husband was on the road and like one of my dogs anticipates when he's gone like for him to come home in the middle of the night. So he was like barking and woke me up like several times and I was just like losing my mind. And I
And
posted
there's nothing worse when they come home in the middle of the night because when the dog barks, like so
no.
we have a puppy too, and like I'm like I wake up every time thinking it's like a murderer because my husband's like 6'2" and he's like standing over the bed and he's like patting the dog and I'm like, oh my god, like, and even when I know, like, I go to sleep knowing and I still wake up like scared to shit. It's so scary. It could be like 4 in the morning, 2 in the morning, it really varies.
I don't think I sleep well when I know he's coming home either because I'm almost like I'll wake up 30 minutes before like the bus pulls in or something and then I'm like, oh, now I have to wait up because otherwise if I fall back asleep, he's going to pull in and I'm going to have to like fall back asleep again. But
Yeah,
how the heck are we going to do this with baby? Like how do
I
people do this with kids
know.
and babies? Like do I
I
have to
know.
wake up and take my dogs outside when he's coming in through the door? Like what the heck? If you have
No.
answers, please send us a DM because I need
Yeah, please
information.
help us, please. I mean, it's doable, right? I follow all these hockey wives that have like 2 kids and dogs, and they make it happen. So I think we can handle it somehow. But my dog's she's only like 25 pounds, but she thinks she's like this guard dog. Like she thinks like when something comes in or someone like she's just like, well, so there's no way I'm keeping her quiet. I mean, unless I like jam treats in her mouth. But yeah, she
Does
for
she
sure is gonna wake the baby up. But I mean, maybe in like the hockey gods will give you a baby that will just like wake up like right before he comes home, and you'll be feeding, and it'll
we
all
can
work.
only dream.
I know, right? It will all work out perfectly.
Does your dog sleep in the bed with you?
Oh my God, does she ever? Are you kidding me? Yes. She's like on my face. She lays like across me. She doesn't start in the bed. She starts on the couch and we go to bed. And then like in the morning, she comes in and she'll cuddle with me and she won't cuddle with my husband. It's so funny. But she will lay with him on the couch and not me. So she has like her like moments.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
honestly, like thank goodness for dogs. I mean, I hear you talk about it all the time. Like I don't know how I could ever do this life without her. Like it's just so like she's my family, like I gave birth to her. She's my baby. Yeah, like well, when they're gone, right? Like going for walks or getting out of the house, and I don't know, you're taking care of something. You have that purpose of, they rely on you.
Oh,
So
absolutely. I know I was telling Charlie, I'm like, do you remember like what life was like before we had the dogs? Like it's honestly hard to remember anything.
yeah, I know. Well, so funny story about our situation with our dog. My husband was like, so we our first year was in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and we had a tough run. And Joe, like, I don't know, he had a lot of pressure on him, and he wasn't feeling like it just was a tough year. And all the girls had dogs, and I was like, I mean, I've always wanted a dog. I would have went to a shelter and adopted like a 13-year-old dog. I would have taken anything. And I said to him, please, can we get a dog? No, no, no. Like, we're not getting a dog. It's too hard. This lifestyle, it's too hard. So then he got traded to the Avalanche, and we were in Texas. And we were living in a hotel, and we like didn't have much of anything. And he had like a bad game one night. The next morning, came home from practice, and he's like, do you want to go look at puppies? I almost fell off the bed. I was like, what? I was like, are you the same person that like, are you for real? And we went, and the place that we went to was so sketchy and like gross. And it was like, the house wasn't nice. And there was all these dogs, and I mean, there was like Christmas decorations and Valentine's decorations, and like, it was like April, and it was just really not fun. And there was 8 of them. Yeah. And I picked her up. She was the only red one. She was so tiny. And I was like, well, I'm taking her. I don't care what you say. Like, I'm not leaving her here. Like, this is a shady situation. And he was like, yeah, that's our puppy. And then like, he is like her, like she and him have this like insane connection. And as much as the dogs help the women in hockey, I think like especially as a goaltender, there's so much pressure, and like she really is like an emotional support animal for him, like 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he comes home from a tough game, he's like, I don't even care. It's like I just want to see my puppy. So
Oh, I
yeah,
like,
I mean, I'm sure you can relate to that. Like,
yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's funny because like so I was actually really scared of dogs when I was little, like terrified. And I don't know
really,
where
and
it
you have
came
big
from.
dogs, don't you? Don't you have big dogs?
Yes. So I was like, I would scream bloody murder like if there was a golden retriever puppy. Like there was just no end. They were like, okay, well, like this is life. Like there's dogs everywhere. We have to like, end this. So finally they warmed me up to getting a puppy. So I grew up with a dog, and like I'm a little bit like nervous when I'm around dogs. Like I'm not super comfortable with, like, and I think that just probably just goes back to like my childhood. Like I'm not like, if I know a dog and I've been around them a ton, like I'm like all snuggly and that kind of thing. But
Just takes you a minute.
yeah, it takes me a
I
minute.
feel like
Like,
that's very common. See, I'm
yeah,
like the psycho that like gets in, like if there's an adoption thing outside, like in LA, they always have like the adoption areas. Like I like get in the crate with all the dogs. Like I'm like really like something's wrong with me. But
no,
yeah, I'm
you're,
like they need my love. I love it. Yeah, I'm a psycho. I like all animals though.
but it's funny because I'm also that person now. Like if someone gives my dogs a dirty look, I'm like, oh, piss off. They're golden doodles.
Yeah,
Like they're not going to
yeah,
attack you. They're
yeah. Well,
fine.
I feel like that at the airport. I get like very defensive because people just like stare at you and like ask you, oh, like and just like on the plane, I remember we were flying to Berlin last year, and like the lady was like, I am allergic, and like made this big deal, and like someone had to come and switch seats, and I'm just like, shut up and sit down. Like I
Yeah.
feel so, and I shouldn't be like that because obviously everyone's entitled to feel the way they feel, and like
Right.
you shouldn't have to be forced to sit next to a dog, but I'm just like, she's a human. Like, what are you talking about?
I know, I know. And I try to be like super mindful around kids. Like if I see a bunch of kids, because like our dogs are so good off leash, like they're better off leash than they are on.
Yeah,
But when
I actually agree. Yeah, mine's like that too. She rips me and like pulls me, and off leash she'll kind of stay with us.
yeah, and so like if there's kids around, I try to be mindful and like I'll put them back on leash and like, because you never know. Like if I was a parent and I saw two big dogs and like I would probably be a little bit skeptical of my kids just like
Of
running
course.
around, but anyway, back to what you were saying about them being emotional support animals for your husband. My husband did not grow up with dogs. And so I think like a couple years, I think we got Deacon two, like 2.5 years into dating. And I said to him, I'm like, hey, like, I want a dog. Do you see yourself having a dog in your life? Because he was kind of
Yeah.
like, never really said anything. He's like, no, like, not really, to be honest. Like, I don't know if I could ever see myself having a dog. And I was like, oh, like,
Oh, it's not
that's
gonna
kind of
work
an issue for me.
out.
And then
Okay.
like literally a week later we got our dog, and honestly, like, just he is so in love with the dogs, it is not even funny. Like, and
Yeah,
I
no,
totally
I
agree.
believe me, I know. Sometimes I'm like, hey, remember me? Like your
Yeah.
wife was here, because they like leave me out. Like when we go on walks, actually, like they always walk in front of me. Like they'll just like leave me behind. And when we were getting engaged, like him and the dog were walking behind me, and I was like walking in front, so I like knew something was up. I was like, this never happens. Like you never walk behind me. I think he was like kind of nervous, but yeah, they always leave me out. I'm
Yeah,
just the
you're like,
third
you're
wheel.
leaving me to the dust right now,
Yeah,
like.
yeah. I'm just like totally the third wheel. But yeah, like I think like everyone loves their dog from whatever career you have, but with this career, like you have that companion when they're gone, and then when they have the tough times, like they have the dogs as well. So it's, I don't know, it just like anyone that is in this lifestyle and is thinking about getting a dog, I'm always like, do it. It's like life changing.
Mhm.
I think I just feel like I remember those moments without her, and like those tough games, or like the road trip. I mean, in North America, the road trips are insane. So the 2 week road trips
Mhm.
are tough. So
Yeah,
having her makes it a lot easier.
we were having this conversation last night too, is, for all the people that are listening that do have dogs right now, it's kind of crazy to think like the dogs that we have right now, like they're riding our hockey life with us. They're like having our babies with us, like our first homes. They're coming
Yeah.
wherever you're going all over the world with us. And so it's like, I think that these animals are like so substantial and like they're going to leave such an impact like when we're 80 years old and we're like, who
Oh,
are our favorite
I can't
dogs?
even
Like,
think of it, right? Like I can't even go like life without her. I'm like, what? Like she's
no,
gonna live forever. It's
we're
just
going to
like
start
that.
crying.
I know. I both pregnant women on the podcast crying, right? No, I can't even like go down that thought process because she's been such a like I've been more dependent on her than she has on me, and I like feed her every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you can probably hear her. She's growling at me for a treat right now. But yeah, she's there. Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's not easy at all. Like getting them over here and getting the paperwork together, and like I stress so bad. I think we were messaging about it. Like I think you had said something like over the summer about how like some airlines need muzzles and like you might put diapers on them, and like I like stress so bad, and every time we fly with her she's like an angel. She's like does
Mm-hmm.
better than us. She like sleeps and she's fine. And so I feel like as a hockey wife I get this question the most from like other girls, like how do you travel with them? I don't know, do you feel like that? A lot of people like reach out and ask like how it's done.
Yeah, and more so the people that aren't in hockey that are just like nosy freaking Nellies. I'm like,
Yeah.
here's my podcast episode, go listen to it because I'm not
Yeah,
explaining this anymore. Like, I
I
have
agree.
no problem explaining it to anyone in the hockey world, but when people like, I have gotten messages from people I have not talked to since high school on
Yeah, I
Instagram that are like,
agree. I
how are your
agree.
dogs on the plane with you? And I'm just like,
And
leaving you on read. Like, how are you?
yeah.
No.
And don't you think that people think it's super easy? Like they're like, "Oh, like we're just traveling, we're going tomorrow. Like how did you do that?" And I'm like, "Going tomorrow? Like you got to start paperwork like when, right?"
Yeah,
Like I'm always like, "What do you I don't know what you think I've been doing, but like the paperwork that you have to send in and like everything has to go accordingly. Like it has to get approved, you know? It's not like you can just be like, "Hey, I got my dog with me. Like gonna fly to Europe."
I know. And then once you're in the
Yeah.
airport, everyone's like, can I, like during COVID, everyone's like, can I touch your dog? And I'm like,
Like,
oh, and
no.
that was the best excuse of life because I was like,
I know.
sorry, we're not having anyone touch them right now. Thank you.
No. No, yeah,
Thank you
yeah.
for your
And
inquiry.
I think when we got home the season ended last year. So we played in northern Sweden. The season was cut in March or whatever. We flew home. My father picked us up from the airport. And like, it's just the thing about COVID is like, you're just so afraid to bring it to somebody else. Like, I mean, obviously, if I get it, I don't want to get it. I'm pregnant, but like with my parents, so me and Joe got home. We like kept our masks on. We didn't touch anything. We didn't hug anybody. We like took all our clothes off, like sanitized. Like the whole family's like in the shower. Like the dog, we have like everyone's like scrubbing everything. Like you just get so panicky. I mean, maybe not as much now with knowing that it's more like in the air, but I don't know if you felt the same way, but I just felt like everything was dirty. I just wanted to throw
Hmm.
everything out. I was like, I need to throw this jacket out. I want to throw my suitcases out.
I know. I feel
But
like
yeah,
I'm,
I felt we were the same way. We're like, I don't want anyone to touch her because someone coughs on their hand and then touches her and then we're like kissing her all the time. Like, I don't know. Who knows?
yeah, yeah. And the worst are the people that just like do it without asking. And I'm like, don't,
Or do you have people? I have people always ask me like, so what kind of support? Like, what kind of
yeah,
service
none
is
of
she
your freaking
for?
business,
Yeah,
dude.
I hate that. And I'm like, well, I suffer with anxiety. Like, I'm not gonna break it down for you, Mister. Like, none of your business. I've had
Yeah.
like numerous people ask me that.
And it's like for, not to get on some huge tangent about like the dogs in the airports.
Yeah, no, I
I feel like
know,
I could
right?
go
And
on and on.
yeah, no, I agree with you. I get so like worked up about it too. I'm like, don't look at her wrong.
It's
Like
like
she's with me.
sometimes people are so nice and those are the people I'm like, yeah, they're actually, like, and I like give a compassionate answer. Like some people are like, hey, like, I'm so sorry to bother you, but like, do you mind telling me like how'd you get your dog here? And I'm like, oh yeah, and like that's the kind of situation that I'm like pretty
No, I agree.
responsive to. But like then
Mhm.
there's some people that are literally just like, can I pet your dog? So how do you
Yeah,
get them on? And I'm like,
yeah,
do
yeah.
they fly in the cabin with you? And I'm like, yeah, they
Yes.
do. Oh, how do they do that? I'm like,
Yep.
they're emotional support animals. Oh, like what does that mean? I'm like, they're emotional support animals. Like that's all I need to tell you. All right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I agree totally. And then like that like it's just like honestly when people ask me how I do it, I get kind of annoyed too because I'm like it's such a long like I
Yeah.
need like
Where do
10
I
minutes to
start?
sit here with you. Yeah, like I can't. I put the work in basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Do your
Yeah,
research. It's doable. And that's all I'll
yeah,
tell you
yeah.
from here.
Well, you're flying home this year with a baby, two dogs,
Oh
and
gosh.
you have
Yeah.
quite the crew. Say that age is super easy. Like, what will he be? 3 months by then?
Yeah, I think
4 months?
like I mean, if we go all the way to the end of the season, yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Like we're in the same boat because all of our teams are getting it. So they're like, I'm like, are they gonna pause the season? Like, it's just
hmm
so many unknowns. Are they
And
still gonna pay us?
you're flying home early, right?
Yeah, so I'm due April 18th. So I'm gonna fly home in February, the middle of February, and I really want my mom and dad to come out so I can fly home with them because flying home 7 months pregnant doesn't by yourself doesn't sound so much fun. I mean, I'm sure
hmm
I'll be fine. It's just always the chance that, you could go into labor, but um I don't know what's going to happen. Who knows like if they'll be able to come over in February.
I know.
So
It's so hard to say.
I tried to plan out the pregnancy during the season, but sometimes the pregnancy gods don't work in that favor, but we're super grateful. And honestly, it's great either way. Any way it happens with the season, it's always going to work out good. You just make it work. But
Yeah.
this city that we live in here in Oskarshamn is super small. It's great. It's a little cozy like village. It's like 17,000 people, and if there was like World War III, like we would probably be in like the safest place in the world because it's so hard to get to. There's no airports. Like we're 3 hours from or 4 hours from like Stockholm, 4 hours from Copenhagen. Like we're really like just in the middle of kind of nothing. And then the hospital's an hour away. So like I'm kind of happy that I'm having the baby back home.
Yeah, that's kind of a long drive. Like, what if you
Yeah.
wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh, now
Well,
we have to
the
drive
so
an
the
hour?
the team doctor here was like, a few women have had their baby in the ambulance, and I was like, what?
Oh my gosh,
I was like,
no.
huh? And he's like, but that was their second baby, and it comes really fast, so don't worry. With your first, you'll be fine. And I was like, oh, okay, like makes me feel so good. But yeah, no, I think it all worked out like the way it was supposed to, just like everything in life, right? Like everything happens for a reason. I think me going home with my family is great. It's kind of sad that like the last month Joe and I will be apart, but like you said, the guys you kind of go through it by yourself. I was reading this article about how like being pregnant, like there's like a sense of loneliness because like the guys just don't understand, right? Like they're
hmm
supportive and they're great. My husband's the best person in the world. I wouldn't want to be going through this with obviously anyone else. Like he is a awesome partner, but like it's just hard to explain. Like sometimes when you're just feeling weird, you can't explain it. You're just like, I don't
hmm
know if I want to eat like waffles in the middle of the night or if I want to eat a hamburger like or a hot dog. Like I just feel weird. Like.
Yeah. And I think that's like such a amazing part about knowing other people that are pregnant. Like I have two friends back home and I talk to them every couple of days, and one of my friends, she's I think like I think she's 3 weeks behind me. And so it's been
Oh,
fun
that's
because
perfect.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
you
we're
guys
on
can
the
really
same
communicate.
yeah, we're on like the same path, I guess. So she'll be like, "Did you have this?" And I'll be like, "Have you seen the like we'll like
Yeah,
exchange
yeah.
information." So it's like it's nice because like in that aspect I have that connection with someone. And I
Hmm.
think like yeah, like you said, like my husband's definitely supportive and he's helpful and like he's seeing me get to a point where I'm like, okay, I can't really like do things as easily anymore. So that's also hard, I think, like when you're not showing, like for
Yeah.
me at least, and I've told my husband this, I'm like, hey, like just because I'm not like looking hella pregnant right now, like I feel
Yeah.
hella pregnant, so I
Yeah,
still
yeah,
need your
yeah.
help.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like as I was reading that article, I like felt like I could fully connect to it because there is a sense of like loneliness because it's like your body, like we're not pregnant, like I'm pregnant. You know what I mean? Like there's a big
Yeah.
difference. And I think it's sweet, like if Joe were to say that, of course, like I would never care, but it's just like as women, like we're going through it and our bodies are changing and our bodies are like, but I had like a little moment. I think I was talking to you on Instagram about this at the grocery store where Joe was on the road and like I don't really get panicky in Europe. I mean, I'm kind of a gypsy soul. I've kind of like lived all over, but I was at the grocery store and I was feeling kind of dizzy. And someone had said to me like, oh, when you're pregnant, you can pass out. Like it just happens when you stand up and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, what if I pass out? And then like, I'm in a country where like everyone standing over me is going to be speaking a different language and I'm just going to like panic even more. And I just, of course, went down that rabbit hole. But yeah, it's things that we deal with that they don't relate to or understand or even know about.
That can go back into the sense of not even being pregnant, but just being over here because they have that distraction of going to practice every day and like having that structure and routine and having the
Oh my
games
God,
and they're on
I
the
can't agree
road.
with you more. I had like a little meltdown last week and I was like, you have so much going on and I don't, and you're busy with like practice and I'm like sitting here and like pregnant and I feel all these weird ways and sometimes I want to cry and sometimes I'm really happy and he's like, just relax. It's
Yeah.
like great. There's a lot to be grateful for. And I was like, I know I'm not being ungrateful. I just feel like this way and I want to feel bad about it for a day.
Yeah.
And I actually think I just like milked it on the couch and I was just like, I'm just going to feel this way and tomorrow I'll get up and feel better. But I think my advice to any hockey wife is getting into the gym is really like great. And there's days that I really don't want to go, but it gets me out and it gets me like every time I go, I never regret it. So I don't know, just even some yoga or, meditation. I don't meditate as much as I would like to, but you just have to keep things going and keep, you can't get into that like hole of just like sitting around because it's very easy to do.
I know. I feel like you have a good group of girls there. Like I see that you're always posting that you guys are doing like workout classes together. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
adorable.
Yeah, I'm really lucky. I feel really blessed. And we had a couple last year up in Umeå that we played with, the Coopers, and they live underneath us. And I'm super close with Lindsay, and it's so nice because like when the guys are on the road, I can like, if I, God forbid anything ever happened with me being pregnant, like I know I have her and she'll take Dakota whenever even. So we're both on 2-year contracts, which is great. So next year with the baby, I'll be like, can you take Dakota, the dog? And like, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm busy. Yeah. So yeah, we have a good group of girls. It's great. But
That
I'm
is like
also
a
like,
dream to play with your
I
best
know
friend.
yeah, it's great. And I'm also like the like crazy hockey wife that's like, everyone come over and we'll decorate cookies and everyone come over and we'll like make Christmas. Like I just like get into these like creative things. So I feel like I like to keep it upbeat and cheery. And anytime like I'll have the girls over for like soup and salad and we'll watch the game. And you have to do things. You need things to like look forward to, or the season really drags. Takes a long
Every team needs someone like you.
time, right? To run the events for the girls. Yeah, no, I think it's. I love hosting. I love that side of because I before I met Joe, I lived in LA with I was till like I went to college there and I worked there and I had a really great group of girlfriends, and then like Joe and I met and I kind of jumped on this bandwagon of this crazy hockey life. And so I kind of missed that. I missed like hanging out with my girlfriends and doing brunch. So I try to like keep it going.
Mhm.
I mean, the connection with the girls is like really important. I feel you have a great group too. Like
We do, yeah.
this is your second year, right? I saw they threw you a little baby shower. So
They
cute.
did. I know. It was so sweet.
My dream has always been to have a baby. Like since I was little, like I remember being like 8 years old and like playing with my dolls and being like, I'm gonna be a mom someday. Like I just always, but did I think I was gonna have a baby in a pandemic and be living in Sweden an hour away from the hospital and like supporting my husband while you know what I mean? Like
Uh-huh.
I didn't see it this way, and it's my dream. And like Joe's dream is to play hockey, so I'm like, we sacrifice so much as hockey wives. Like
Mhm.
I don't think that anybody besides a hockey wife would actually understand like that. I think people back home are like, of course they sacrifice, but they're still living in these awesome countries, you know? And
Mhm.
it's like, no, it's not home, and we're having babies and we're moving around and we're, missing our family. And yeah, it's hard. It's really hard.
Mhm. Yeah, that's so relatable to me. It's just no one gets it.
I'm not really afraid of the labor. I don't know what it is. I'm just like, I know it's going to just hurt. Like, I'm just like, it's going to hurt. Like, it's just a human being's. I think I'm so excited about the outcome that like
Mhm.
I mean, that's what everyone says is it just like, yeah, it's going to suck. Obviously there's no going around it. You can't like read some story that's like, oh, it was perfect and it didn't hurt at all. Like,
Right.
but everyone said, like, even my mom was like, the pain you feel, like the joy that you feel after it, just like you don't like, it's just, who cares?
Yeah, I know.
You
That's
know?
so true.
So
And like you won't know
you'll
it
be
till you
fine.
feel
Yeah.
it. And like
No,
those
yeah.
those are the people that like say that too. It's like you'll see after. And then like you're going to be that person that's like you'll see after, right? But
I
it's like
know.
when you're going through it, it's like it's so anxiety triggering, I
Yeah.
feel like.
Funny, don't you feel like when you talk to, I think when you had the girl on the podcast that was in her second pregnancy, like when women are in their second pregnancy, they just have like this aura about them that's just so like relaxed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because like I was like thinking, I'm like, she just seems so like confident and relaxed. And I'm like, I feel like if Devin and I got on here together, like I'd just be like, yeah, and I feel this way, and yeah, I feel this way. Like, because I think like I mean, obviously you already have gone through it and you have like that confidence.
And people always want to like relate their birth story to like yours, like, oh, like you said, that guy who's like, a couple people have delivered on the ambulance or in the ambulance, but like that doesn't happen with the first one. It's like, no, it actually can. Like I've talked to a lot of girls that say like their labor was in like 3 hours for their first and it came 2 weeks early.
No, I agree. Yeah, who knows? Yeah, it's crazy. No, I agree. I think you just go into it with whatever, like whatever's going to happen is going to happen. It's going to be a good story if it's something crazy. And you know what I mean? Like, it's like, if you have the baby in the ambulance, you have the baby in the ambulance. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it makes for a good podcast. I'm sure you'll ask me to be back on.
Yeah. I mean, I really hope my husband's not my doctor, but
No, I know, right? I feel like Joe would be like, so Joe is very calm, like very, very calm. Like it's actually like insane. Like even as a goaltender, like it'll be like, because he won the cup. Was your husband on the Idaho team the year that they played in Colorado? The year that they won? I feel like he was.
Yes.
I think Joe said he played your husband at some point.
Yeah, because we were in Idaho for a bit, so.
Yeah, and it was like they won the year that Joe had played. The Colorado Eagles had won the Kelly Cup the year prior, so it was kind of like, oh, they're probably not going to win it again, but we'll see what happens. So they go down to Florida, Game 7, like they're down like 2-1 or something, and like my husband's just so calm. I'm like, I actually was at Cassidy's apartment, and I was like hiding behind the couch with like a bottle of wine in my hands, and I was like, I can't look. It's so stressful, and he just stays calm the whole time. And like the team ended up winning, which was awesome. But it's like, I don't know how he does it. I feel like if I went into labor, he'd be like, okay, we got this. Don't worry. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's Game 7. Like, we're down, but you know what I mean? Like, I feel like he just would like snap into like go mode, and I would be like panicking. Even like with coronavirus, I had a couple like panic moments. And when we got home, I had actually gotten a really bad sore throat, which is like very common for me. I get sore throats a lot. And I was like crying to my parents, and I was like, I don't want to go. Like, they're going to take me in those mask suits and like take me to the hospital. Like, I just was like panicking. And he's like, he like sat me down. He's like, that's a weak mindset. Like, snap out of it. And I was like, you're so right. I was like, you're right. I need to like be stronger. And he's like, we had like this whole like pep talk, and like, it's crazy how opposite we are, but it's great because we really balance each other out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. But and like so people will be like, oh, so like what's Joe's routine? Like, does he get nervous? I'm like, nope, nothing. He like eats everything different every day. Like, doesn't have like a game day routine. I'm serious. It's bizarre. Doesn't
That's
even
good,
like,
though. I mean,
yeah,
you want a calm goalie. Like, you don't want someone that's super flustered.
No, totally. I'd say that's probably like one of his like best compliments is like how calm he stays.
Yeah.
And then like people ask me like, how, like, what's his trick? I'm like, I don't know. I honestly have no idea. I don't know what he ate last night. Maybe it's something that like I cooked and he's just like staying calm. I don't know. He's just really
I drug him.
Yeah, like I don't know. I mean, I need the drugs. I'm like, give me all the Xanax.
Like,
yeah. Just like,
I feel like most hockey guys are pretty calm. Like, yeah, there's a couple guys in there that have like a lot of energy, and like that's always fun to have around, you know. But I like my husband's the same way. I don't just like even going back to just like giving birth. I'm like, are you nervous about me giving birth? I asked him that last night, and he was like, no, not really. Like, I think you'll be fine.
But don't you get like, I get mad. Do you get
Pardon?
mad? I get mad because I'm like, I get mad at him because I'm like, you should be nervous. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you're just not nervous because I'm doing it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Like, you're
Exactly.
just not nervous because I'm the one giving birth and you're not. And he's like, no, babe, like, I love you. I'm there with you. Like, and I'm like, no, I know.
No,
Okay,
I
good.
think when they see you like at the hospital and like the
Well, everyone
pain
says
and
they feel so helpless. Everyone's like, you should see the guys. They just feel like they feel so bad because you're in pain and they just like run around like with their heads chopped off. Like, what do I do? Where do I go? What do I do?
yeah.
Like, which I can imagine. I mean, if it was if the roles were reversed, I'd feel the same way. I'd be like, what can I do to help? You know?
Right.
He
Yeah.
actually asked me something like, what do I do while you're like giving birth? And I was like, you just support me. He's like, that's it. I'm like, well, you're not going to reach your hands up there and pull it out. So
I know. I was like, I just ordered a portable fan. And my husband's like, okay, I'll be the fan guy. I was
yeah,
like, okay,
like the
perfect.
fan in the water, like pour some water in my mouth, some ice
Yeah,
cubes. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind
exactly.
of sad because you know that they like are so excited and it's again, like we go like women, we're the ones that are doing this. And like, it's just, yeah, you like know they want to be a big part of it, but at the end of the day, like we're in this journey alone, kind of.
Yeah. So where's your husband from? How do you guys meet?
Oh, it's such a crazy story. So we grew up together since like the fourth grade. We're in like the same fourth grade class, and we knew each other all through high school, but never like really hung out. I just like knew of him. And then I went to college in LA. I worked in LA. I worked in the hospitality industry and the wedding industry, but I was like burnt out, like just sick of it. Like, first off, LA, I don't know if you ever spend time there. It's kind of can be like a lonely city, like pretty
Mm-hmm.
depressing. And so I was like kind of like, thinking about moving home. And my friend Lizzie was working for his team up in Utica. And she said, do you remember Joe Cannata? And I was like, yeah, like from high school, whatever. She's like, he plays on this team in Utica. And she said, and I was talking to him about you, and he was saying how like he wants to ask you out so bad. And I'm like, what? Like, he's so far, he's in New York. Like, that doesn't even make sense. She said he had played in Ontario, and he had messaged me, but I like ignored him because I thought he just was like out visiting in LA and wanted me to like show him around Hollywood. And I just like didn't have time for that. And I sound so bougie, but I really was just working so much. And so we had messaged on Facebook. Then we had talked on the phone for like forever, like 5 hours. Well, mostly me talking. He was just like listening, but we were like laughing and connecting. And the next morning I woke up and he's like, I bought you a flight to New York. And I was like, you're crazy. Like, I haven't seen you
What?
I was like, I haven't seen you in 10 years. Like, I can't fly across the country. And like, I come from like a like really close Italian Boston family. I was like, my mother, like, I can't call my mother up and tell her I'm flying across the country to go visit a guy. Like, she's gonna kill me. Like, not that she's strict, but she's just like, what you
She'd be
doing,
like,
like
you're
with her
crazy.
yeah, like with her Boston accent. Like, are you doing the right thing, Jillian? Like, you know what I mean? So I remember being like, all right, like I'll sit on it. And like 2 weeks had gone by. We were talking on the phone, and I took a chance, and my brother drove me to the airport, and he's like, if he's a weirdo, just get back on the plane and like fly home. Like, don't worry about it. Like, so funny. But yeah, I got there, and like, I know it sounds so cliche, and I got off the plane, and I was like, I just like knew. I was like, I like love him. Like, he was so like sweet and caring and like considerate, and didn't make me feel uncomfortable. And like, it wasn't like I just like flew across the country for like this guy to like stay with him. Like, and I really had no idea about hockey. Like, I honestly, I thought
Yeah.
he played like men's league. I didn't even know there was like, I didn't even know there was a teams underneath the NHL. Like, what I knew of hockey was like going to a Bruins game and like getting beer spilt on me. Like, that wasn't like, I just didn't know. Yeah. So he had like explained like this was his career. And then I had decided to move home, and I was working at the Fairmont in LA, and I transferred to the Fairmont in Boston. I moved home, and he's like, you're going to move in with me. You're going to move in with me. I was like, no. Like, I feel like he like pushed everything on me. He's like, you're going to move in, like, you're going to fly across the country. And so I had gotten home, and he, like, I don't think I was going to just stay with my parents for a little bit. And I don't think I spent one night there. I was like, okay. So like little by little, I started moving in. And then he's like, you're gonna move with me for hockey. And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, I had a career, but I had ended up hating my working at the Fairmont in Boston, I just like it just really wore me down. And the hospitality, I was there till like 3 a.m. sometimes. So I quit that job, and his first move was to Hershey, Pennsylvania, and that was really hard because I went from living in LA to like Hershey, which is it's a great town. It's just really small, and you're kind of far away from everything. And then he had like a tough year that year, and I didn't really know anything. I don't know if this makes sense, and I don't mean to sound it like to say this in like a weird way, but like I had to kind of learn how to be a hockey wife. Does that make sense? Or like a hockey girlfriend, because I feel like he didn't fill me in on things. And I like went to a game and I was like, so who'd your husband get, or who'd your boyfriend get drafted by? Like, I didn't know that like not all the guys got drafted, and like, that's okay. And it doesn't matter. Doesn't like, you could be in the NHL and not be drafted, or you can be in the NHL and be drafted. Like, I just didn't know. And I'm sure the girls were like, get this girl out of here.
Well, annoying, it's like everybody has to start somewhere. Like, I had never been to a hockey game either when I started dating my husband, and I knew nothing, like absolutely nothing. And he would try to explain things. I'm like, yeah, this is just like not registering. Like, no clue what you're talking about.
And like him explaining, and then like he had just a terrible year. Like, I mean, I would wake up with like lipstick and write like motivational comments on the wall, on the window, like on the mirror, like, and he would take a shower, and I like would hope it would help, because like he was in such a bad place. And so like, and then the team was just struggling, and then he talked to his agent about getting a trade, and he like called me one day. He's like, so thinking about getting a trade. And I was like, so how's that work? And we had like an apartment in Hershey, and he's like, well, if I get traded, like I leave that day. And I was like, what? Like that day? I was like, what do you mean you leave that day? He's like,
backtrack, please.
Like, and again, like me not knowing anything about this lifestyle. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, so you're going to leave that day. And then, so he got that exact thing happened. He got traded to go to Texas, and he left that day, and the next day he was like playing in a game. So I was in an apartment with 2 cars and all this stuff, and Joe had to buy like this 60-inch TV, and like it was just ridiculous. So the guys were at practice, and I was like carrying down the TV, like hiding from them, because I like didn't want to see any of the guys like see me struggling, and all of them would have helped me. I just like didn't want to ask for help. But I packed up both cars, and then I moved to Texas with them, and it's kind of wild. But we had like, I think I'd sent you this with like the pictures of my niece. Like, we had like a really like pivotal moment with hockey. My niece that summer, my niece got sick in June, and let me preface this by saying she's 7 years old, and she's doing really great and very healthy right now. But she had got diagnosed with cancer, and it was stage 4, and it really like knocked us all on our feet. Like, we were just like, I don't know, it's just like something in life where you just like, it just catapults you into like this dimension of like, you have to make changes, right? Like, life is so precious, and like you can't, not everything is promised, you know? And it was kind of like all the stress that we had put on hockey and all these like false promises and all this stuff, like it was just, none of it mattered. Nothing mattered at all. Like, the only thing that mattered was this little 3-year-old baby and like getting her better. And so that next season, Joe had signed with the Avalanche again. And then he's like, I'm going to dedicate this year to Ruby. And he's like, I'm going to play like in honor of her. And she loves him. She thinks he's like I think she had like a little crush on him at first. So she just like loved him so much. So he played like for her, and honestly, it would take me an hour to even explain all the treatments that she had, but it was like 9 rounds of chemo and like a 19-hour surgery to remove a tumor. Like, she would like, we were all like, how are we going to get this baby over this mountain? And she was like, guys, I'm just going to like move it. Like, she just was like this rock star, like this angel. And so that's season,
so heartbreaking. And like, I know you were away from your family too. It's like, how do you even?
Yeah, it was hard. He really picked me up off the ground and like shook me off. And like, he was kind of like, I mean, I was so angry. It's a weird feeling to feel like you would do anything to trade places with someone who has cancer. Like, I would have done anything to like take on her pain. You know what I mean? So it was just, my whole family felt that. And it was a heavy year for my family, but Joe had made that commitment, and he had like on his helmet, he had put a picture of Ruby, and on the other side, he had put a picture of childhood, like the ribbon, like the yellow ribbon for childhood cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And he played in honor of that. And he was like, I'm just going to like, he started to kind of like not like hockey. And it's hard as a significant other because like we're supposed to be like support systems, but like, what do you say? Like, how do you, I can't imagine, I can't even tell you how many times I was like, then let's just call it quits. Like, that's okay. Like, we can move on. Let's just start a family. And like, we don't need this. Like, we don't need this stress. And Joe's really, really good, not to sound conceited, but he's a really good goalie. Like, it wasn't really his time to quit, but he just wasn't happy. And then this happened with my niece, and perspective shifted, and he was like, I'm just going to have fun with hockey and I'm going to play the best I can. And that was the year that they won the Kelly Cup, and it's crazy.
Wow.
And he like won it for her. It was just a wild year. And like, yeah, I think it just taught us that like, if you like, children, when children get sick, they don't like go into like this dark hole of like, I'm sick, I have to be, they just kind of stay positive. And it's like, if you have the right mindset, you can really do anything in life. Joe, like, really, like, he just had this like different like aura about him every time he got on the ice. He said he would like tap the side of his helmet and he would get on the ice and just play for something bigger and different than hockey. And he had his best year, I think, ever in hockey. So it was great.
That is like the sweetest thing ever, that he
Yeah.
dedicated the year to her. And gosh, it's like, it's hard to find like the words to say, right? Because like I haven't gone through that, and it's, you know, but it's so heartbreaking to hear like anyone, let alone
Yeah.
a little child, having stage 4 cancer. And like,
Mm-hmm.
how do we navigate this as a family and like get through this and stay strong for each other when everyone, I'm sure, was feeling so defeated.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
I'm just,
she was the reason why we like, and not to even sound somber or make this like super sad, because she's doing so good, and like we're really blessed and lucky as a family, and like we really like are very grateful and thankful for like that this has turned out the way that it has, and we've, you know, that we get to spend all this time with this like light of life. But it's just crazy how like you can have something happen in your life and it really changes so much, you know, because like I said, that first year, like even our relationship struggled because the communication was not there. Like Joe and I, like, I feel like he was just in this like bubble of like hockey and feeling depressed, and I didn't understand and I didn't know. And then when you kind of look at things from a different point of view, like you just like, wow, this is crazy, you know.
I know. And I think it's like normal. Like, I mean, there's times where we still struggle with communication, like, just going to be
Course.
real. Like, it's, you know,
Yeah.
like it's not always sunshine and rainbows. Like
No, totally.
you
And
see
I felt
online.
resentment towards him like that first year, because I was like mad. Like, why didn't you teach me this about hockey? Why didn't you tell me this? Why didn't you why, like, I didn't feel prepared for certain things and certain situations. And yeah, and it was kind of like we just like started living after that with like what happened with my niece. We just kind of started like living, and then hockey was just his work. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like our first year, it was like just like hockey, 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 and like it consumed us. I mean, I'm sure most hockey families or hockey wives have felt that way, where it's like consuming.
Personally, like that's something that like we can find more balance about. It's like, okay, like let's turn this off, because you know, it's like I totally get that there's like a structure, right, to like game days and that kind of thing, and like coming home from practice, but then it's a lot, you know, they're on like elite prospects and watching games and clips,
Oh
and it's
yeah.
like, okay, can we turn this off? Like I
Yeah.
need to like separate myself. I need like, let's go for a walk, let's go lead, let's
Yeah.
go do
Yep.
something else, because it gets to be kind of overwhelming, especially when it is all about them. And I'm like, of course, like I will support you, I will be here for you as long as you decide
Yeah.
that you want to
Yeah.
play for. But I think it's important to remember that we don't have that all going on. And I know
Mm-hmm.
like it's easy for people to say like you just need to find something for yourself, but
Oh,
it's not
that's so
always
hard.
that
I get so
easy.
frustrated. I get so frustrated when people say that to me, because I'm like, you don't understand. Like, I live somewhere for 8 months and I live somewhere else for 4 months, or you know what I mean? It's like, it's just, it's hard. Like, what do you like, knitting? Not sure.
Yeah.
Like, what's like, it's hard to find things like that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not,
Yeah. And I
I
think like when
agree.
you
Yeah,
start a family and like that, like your little baby, like that's going to be like
of
something that
course.
gets you out of the house and gets you to do things. And like that's also as that's going to be for your husband as well. But
Yeah.
I
No,
think
but
like,
it's good timing because like well, I'm not working right now. So it's like having the baby and Joe working and like me being able to like stay home with the baby is great.
right.
Like eventually I'll have to work, you know, when Joe's done with hockey and stuff. So it is good timing to have a baby. And I think when you just like start to just like live and not have like the stresses of hockey, it's really changes a lot. And I think it's like more enjoyable as a couple. And that was kind of our attitude with coming over here. I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I like playing in Europe way better than North America. For us, like, so Joe had won the Kelly Cup, then we went to Utah, and like he had signed with the Avalanche again, and like everything that they had asked of him. So it was a dual affiliate with in San Antonio with St. Louis and the Avalanche. So Joe was the number 4 goalie in the organization, but he was bumped down to the coast that year in Colorado. And it was fine. Like he was starting goalie. Like he had tons of playing time. Didn't really matter to us. He had a good contract. So they asked him like, you know, play your hardest and we'll give you a good deal and we'll move you up and blah, blah, blah. And he did that and he won. And so the next year it was all false promises. Like, and I think that you hear that a lot, and I'm not trying to like bash any organization. Colorado was good to us, but I think you just hear like, if you do this differently, you'll be there. You'll be at that next step. And so we had done that in Utah, and I had spent so much time by myself, and Joe was in Colorado and he wasn't even playing. Like he was getting called up because Colorado had become an AHL team and he wasn't playing. So I was just like sitting in Utah. I had a nannying job. I couldn't even leave by myself. And we were so like apart so much. So coming over here, like no long road trips, like I think that, like that is like huge. And then like without call ups, Joe would get called up because like someone in the, like, cause he was that year in Colorado, he would go to the NHL and then he would go to the AHL. Like he went to Sweden with the NHL as a number 3. And then he would go to like the AHL too, like as a number 3, like not playing, but like just as like someone stubbed their toe. Like, can you come sit? You know what? Like literally that's how it felt. It was like someone's toenails hurting them. Like, and it was like, oh, okay. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Goaltending is so weird. It's so weird.
Yeah.
And it as a spouse of a goaltender, it can feel really lonely sometimes because they don't want to talk about it, and you can't really talk to people on the team about it. And like I can't call my mom and explain it because she doesn't get it. So yeah, it's weird.
You should connect with Brittany, who I'm actually having on this week. But her husband is a goaltender too, and she was saying similar things, just how it's like stressful and you know it's hard, and she wishes he was in a different position. Like obviously she's like so proud of him and thinks he's amazing at what he does, but she's like, it's not the easiest thing.
Well, I already told him, I was like, our children will not be goalies. Like it's just not happening. I was like, I mean, obviously we'll let our children be whatever they want to be, but
right.
I really hope they don't like lean towards, because there's a difference between like our guys can have, like the team can lose 1-0, right? And our guys can have the best game ever. Like they could have played an unreal game and stopped 50 shots and let in 1 and the team lost. And so the team's kind of bummed, but like you're at home, you're kind of like, well, you played really good. You know what I mean? It's just there's kind of like a disconnect in some ways. So it's hard. It's hard. And it's hard to talk to the girls about it too. And a lot of times we're usually friends with like the other goalie and the wife of the other goalie, which is kind of funny because obviously there's like a healthy competition with it. But I don't know, it's like the only one that I think would understand me, you know, and I'm all, and Joe and I's like attitude with it is like we're always supportive. Like there'll never be one goalie on a team. Whoever's in the net, like we support and we want to do them to do their best. And we just think like positive energy and positivity is the best way to, you know, support your teammates.
Yeah, I love that. That's really awesome that you guys are like that and just you know, positive, because I've always wondered like what that would feel like if you're like not starting and like you're the starting goalie or like vice versa. Like I don't know, it would just be like a weird situation.
Well, you're in a competition with somebody on your team. Like obviously defensemen and forwards maybe go through this as well, but like as a goalie, it's totally different. It's like you're either getting the game or you're not, you know? So at the end of the day, like Joe and I said, like I think my first year I was like, oh, like, I hope this goalie doesn't do that good so Joe can play. And I remember feeling those ways and feeling terrible. Like, I'm like, I feel terrible for feeling this way. Like, and I guess like I even
I
feel
think that's like
terrible.
natural though
Yeah,
to have those
but
thoughts.
but it changed like when I started feeling like, I want what's best for everybody and we're a team and we want to win. And I just feel like it like completely changed.
I wonder if that varies from team to team, like that
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. You mean like for me from going from team to team?
Yeah, like do you always feel like you have that outlook regardless of what team you're on?
Yeah. Again, I think that goes back to like our experience with like what we went through with Ruby. I think it was just like it's not like you don't want any negativity. You don't like it's just like this is their job. Like I don't want anyone to do bad or do wrong. I want my husband to play, but if like whatever happens,
Mm-hmm.
who's in the net, I don't want anyone to get hurt. Like just
Mm-hmm.
changes. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think for the most part, every team we've been on, Joe and I have had that attitude, unless like, which we haven't really experienced, unless like the other goalie is just like not a nice person.
Then
We
you're
haven't
out. We hate
experienced.
you.
Yeah, then I'm like, but no, most of the time we're really close with the other goalie. We do like Christmas dinners with them and stuff. And yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
awesome.
it's the only one on the team that will understand what you're going through.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's like a lot of guys lean on their wives and girlfriends and stuff because, like you said, like he could have a great game, but the team lost. And I think that that's something that's just not really spoken about because, like, same with
No.
my husband, like they could have lost 4-0. But like if he played well, like he's not going to go around flaunting like, well, I
No.
played good, but he might tell
No,
me
yeah.
that. But it's like, I
Yeah.
think
At home.
it is a lot more like individual based than people think. Like, but
Yeah.
at the same time, you're not going to be like, well, he had a good game, so it's
Yeah,
fine. But
No, never. No, never. Yeah.
yeah, but it's interesting because it's like home is so different than like what might have happened at the rink. And I guess you just never really know until you're talking with them
Yep.
after the game, like what the sitch is.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah. It's so funny though. I don't know if you can tell this with your husband. Like when the game's over, I can tell Joe's mood, like when he's skating off the ice. Like I'm like, oh, he's happy. Or like, oh, he's like definitely like not that happy because he like
Yeah.
I feel like the way he stands and stuff, like you know what I mean. And obviously, we watch so much hockey that you just like
Right.
start to read them in weird ways.
And
Like he'll like do something a certain way, and I'm like, oh, he's pissed.
yeah.
And the girl, how do you know? I'm like, because I know he's so mad right now.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like their body language. I'm like, but then I'm like,
Totally.
maybe it's the heat of the moment, and then I see him after and he's totally fine. So it's like I
Yeah,
really never know, but like
I
pretty much my
agree.
first interaction with him after the game, I'm like, what's wrong? If he's
Yeah,
not
and
happy.
you're like, oh, tonight's gonna be a good night, or tonight's gonna be a dinner with not much talking. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
It was so fun talking to you. And if someone wants to reach out to you, where can they find you on Instagram?
At Jillian Cannata 35. And if anyone
Perfect.
has any pregnancy questions and they're jumping on board with us with this hockey life, I'm more than happy to answer because I know like when I first found out I was pregnant, I was like, I'm in Sweden. Who do I talk to?
Yep. I think we just all need like a big group chat.
I know, honestly, like, or even like a little like Facebook pregnancy. Maybe we can start something like that.
Ooh, I like that
A little
idea.
private one. Yeah. Just
The
to be like,
wheels are
oh, I felt that
turning.
way. I know. Well, you're the best at creating all these things. So that's on
Oh.
you. Just kidding.
Oh, thanks. No pressure.
Yeah. You're about to have a baby in a couple weeks, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I actually really do
So,
like that
so
idea though. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed that episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. See you next week.